that you say, I was 42 when I had my first orgasm, and that stopped me. This woman who is the sexual coach to millions, how has she not had an orgasm her whole life till she turned 42? So would you just kind of give us some backstory?
Well, they always say your greatest wound becomes your greatest gift. And I just had a lot of shitty shit happen to me sexually, from trauma and abuse and bad boyfriends and insults, and I got pregnant and had to get an abortion. And I was using birth control, and I got herpes from a boyfriend who cheated on me. So I've been an STI advocate. All this stuff happened to me, and I thought, okay. Then I met my husband. I screwed around a lot in my 20s, but it was never really very good. I had like glimpses of what sex could be.
Welcome to the Open Bedroom Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kaylo. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, and creating relationship dynamics that truly align for you. Hey guys, I don't typically come on here and do product commercials or have a testimonial for a product. But on today's show, we have Susan Bratton, and her line is Euphoria. And the reason I wanted to pop on here is because this shit is awesome. So she sent me 3 different products. One you will see we've already used quite a lot of. This is the Euphoria Sex Oil with CBD. She also sent me Awaken Arousal Oil with CBD. And then there is a Euphoria Melt Vaginal Suppository. So I'll talk about each one of these really quickly. So interestingly, on these melts, our girlfriend Steph had already used this entire line of products and loves these melts. So if you're wanting to make sure that you're extra wet and juicy, all you do is take one of these suppositories a few minutes before you are going to be intimate, and you let it melt. Here's the little suppositories. Let it melt, let it get all wet and yummy, and you're ready to go. If you want to play with having a little extra help with arousal, this Awaken Arousal Oil is your friend. So ladies, if you want to put this on your clitoris to help kind of waken things up, super yummy and tingly. Smells a little bit minty. Smells a little minty. It's clear. Has a little bit of like a chocolatey mint kind of taste. Okay. And then our favorite. So I wanted to stop and say, you guys know I have been a fan of coconut oil for years. The great thing about coconut oil is it's thick and creamy and rich and yummy. And here is some from Sam's Club. It's organic coconut oil. I'm just going to kind of show you how it looks and feels. I guess you can't tell how it feels, but you can tell how it looks on the skin. Looks like this. It's like real glossy. But eventually, if you use enough of it, it starts to feel gritty. And what I understand the reason of that is that coconut is actually a bit abrasive, and it can cause your skin to slough off, which you don't actually notice this other than I'm giving Scott a hand job. I notice it starts to get gritty, and I'm like trying to wipe it on myself or the sheets, and it's gross. So we started using this Euphoria Sex Oil, and not only does it not have the coconut smell, but it's so smooth. It's a totally different experience. You guys can probably barely even see this dripping down my arm, but 0 scent. 0 taste, and it just has a little bit of a different sheen. This is the one that's the sex oil. This is the coconut oil. I don't know if you can tell, but it has such a silky glide. We are really loving this. So I'm using it on myself to help with just, being slick and sensation. And then definitely using it on Scott as I do hand jobs and prepare him to enter me. So I just wanted to tell you guys about this entire line. It's called Euphoria. This is the line by Susan Bratton, and we will have a code below for you guys to order some of this product if this sounds interesting to you. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Bye. Susan Bratton believes that shame-free, frequent sexual pleasure is every man and woman's birthright. She is a sexual biohacker, orgasmonaut, author of 34 books, like Relationship Magic, Revive Her Drive, and Sexual Soulmates, the founder of 2 companies, one called The 20 and 2 called Personal Life Media. Susan, I am so excited to have you on today. I have been fangirling you for a while on your social platforms, just found your YouTube channel, and I'm so excited to go dive into that. Welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really, really happy that you want to talk about orgasms today.
I do. Orgasms are one of my favorite things to talk about.
Mine too. Mine too. They're my favorite thing to do.
So I was just combing the internet for your stuff, and I landed on your YouTube page, which I'll put a link below so you guys can go back and see some videos on there. And in your intro video, 2 minutes in, you say, I was 42 when I had my first orgasm. And that stopped me. And I was like, wait, what? This woman who is the sexual coach to millions, how has she not had an orgasm her whole life till she turned 42? So would you just kind of give us some backstory and let's dive in?
Yeah, sure. Well, they always say your greatest wound becomes your greatest gift. And I just had a lot of shitty shit happen to me sexually, from trauma and abuse and bad boyfriends and insults, and I got pregnant and had to get an abortion. I mean, and I was using birth control, and I got herpes from a boyfriend who cheated on me. So I've been an STI advocate for, since then, and to STI testing advocate, and all this stuff happened to me, and I thought, oh, okay. Then I met my husband. I screwed around a lot in my 20s, but it was never really very good. I had like glimpses of what sex could be, and I always thought, God, is it just like bullshit that sex can be this good? Is everybody just lying and making it sound better than it is? Like, why can't I get it? And I was just so disillusioned. I met my husband, and I really liked being with him. I really liked having sex with him. My idea of what sex was now what I look back and call grab a boob and stick it in. It didn't have enough foreplay or arousal. It was too rushed. It was intercourse focused. I love intercourse, but I also love oral and making out and yoni and linga massage, and I like a lot of things. And so but I liked having sex with him, and we went along for a few years doing okay. But then by the time we were married for over a decade, I was avoiding him for sex. And he was seeing a woman on the side that I didn't know about who was in a sexless marriage. And they were just trying to get their needs met because neither of their partners wanted to be intimate with them. And my husband had really emotionally checked out of our relationship. And we were just definitely living in a platonic experience. I could have an orgasm with my rabbit vibrator, but I couldn't have an orgasm from intercourse. And for us, sex was basically intercourse. I mean, my husband would like to have a blowjob too. And I didn't have orgasms from giving oral either. And so I just came up with, if you want to know what the exhaustive list of every excuse in the book for not having sex with your partner is, I have written that. Okay. I lived that. And so we saw all our friends getting divorced, and we knew that it was usually either sex or money, or you just happen to pick a sociopath or something, which that happens too. And we knew that it was sex that was driving everyone apart. And we thought, God, we can't ruin our little girl's, family. And we loved each other. We got along really well. We're really good together. It was just this one area where he was like, maybe she's a lesbian. And I was, I'm not. I'm bisexual, but I generally oriented toward the male population. And so we decided to do something about it, and we got some books on Amazon and started reading, because that's like our first thing for everything, is get a book and read. And then I started going to therapy, and really worked on my sexual trauma and worked through that, and started to learn how to stay present during sex because I was dissociating from it. And we decided to do a lot of personal growth. We walked on fire with Tony Robbins and did a lot of those kinds of things. We decided to get really honest with each other. We knew Tabor Shadburn, who is associated with Brad Blanton, the author of Radical Honesty. So we were kind of turned on to being honest. We started getting really honest with each other. And then, that took a lot to get out of the societal imprint that is withhold, walk on eggshells, stuff your bullshit, let your boundaries be breached, hold grudges. Like that's basically what we're taught to do instead of just tell our truth. So we had to learn how to tell our truths to each other and become radically honest with each other, which we did. And it was so much better. God, it was a relief. I literally won't even hang out with people anymore who I have to filter myself for.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to be my authentic self. And if you don't like me, I totally get it. I might not be your cup of tea. But generally, if you like who I am, I know you love me because you're loving who I really am. And so that was really important for us. But what really made a huge difference, besides the honesty and then the getting to compassion for my transgressors and letting that shit go and moving on, was going to sex workshops, tantra workshops or orgasm workshops, Human Awareness Institute, and getting the sexual education that we're constantly censored from getting in our country and in our culture. And boy, there's this little saying that something that's like a really profound, easy little shift that you can take is a little hinge that swings a big door, like a tiny thing you can do that makes a huge difference. That's what learning sex techniques is. They are tiny hinges that swing big doors. They make a massive improvement in your satisfaction, your confidence, your joy, your intimacy, your orgasm, your pleasure, just by learning these things. So we started learning them and it transformed our sexuality. We started having really good sex. I started finally having great orgasms from sex. We got better at kissing, at full body touch, at yoni massage, at lingam massage, expanded orgasm. We found my G-spot. I started ejaculating. He started practicing male multiple orgasm. I started having orgasms from intercourse. It was like boom, 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 boom. We just knocked that shit down.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. And it was at that time when I was 42, 43, 44, I went through this massive, like, some people call it a midlife crisis. Some people would call it like regaining or reclaiming your childhood experiences and starting your life the way you want to instead of the way it was prescribed to you. Some people would call it a sexual awakening. Some people would call it any number of things, and I had them all. I started to act like a teenager again. I started to love having sex. I started to just have all this creative, just like boom, like I just fucking blew up for me. And then we said, oh man, we just need to bring all this stuff that we learned in workshops to everyone on the internet around the world who's living in these cultures where they're shamed and repressed and where they're starved for education and knowledge, where sex ed is just scare tactics that makes you, hate it. I mean, all that stuff. We're going to teach people about their genitals and how they work and how the male body's arousal system is different from the female bodies so that husbands can understand why their wives are doing the things they do and wives can understand why their husbands are doing the things they can do. And you can start to have some empathy and get in each other's world and, begin as beginners again and learn how to become lovers. So almost 20 years ago, we started our company, Personal Life Media, and we have the Better Lover brand. We have the Steamy Sex Ed Video Collection. I've written now 44 books and programs. So I just keep cranking shit out because there's just, the thing about sex is there's always more. There's always more. It's really a maturation, a personal evolution. And once the door is open, once you kick down the door of oppression and ignorance and you let the light in on your sex life, it becomes one of those things that is it's a jewel in the crown of all of the best things in life. Love of family and friends, food, art, music, nature, intimacy. And that's when I really began to develop my brand, which is how I define what I do is I say, I transform having sex into making love. I transform friction, rubbing your genitals together, into connection. What I like to teach is heart connected, conscious, passionate lovemaking skills. And they're in three areas. One is communication skills in and out of the bedroom,
Mhm.
pleasuring techniques, which includes knowing your genital anatomy, and intimate wellness and sexual biohacking and regenerative therapy so that you can reverse the atrophy of aging in your genital systems and keep having great sex your whole life long till the day you die. And you're going to die you're going to have a longer, happier, healthier life because you stood for having sex that kept getting better, going up the pleasure spiral. And all your friends who gave up their sex life didn't learn about it, didn't fix problems, didn't find workarounds, didn't keep it going. They are going to die before you. They're going to have a shittier life. They're going to be more miserable. They're going to look older and they're going to be less happy.
Mm.
And so I'm for ageless sexuality. And that's the story of how I learned how to have 20 different kinds of orgasms and start teaching them to everybody because pleasuring skills are so important.
Oh my goodness. So much yumminess in all of this. So
Good.
similar to you, I also had the sexual awakening. Mine started at 38, and
Good.
I'd had my first marriage that lasted 10 years, my
Yeah.
second marriage, and I was in my 8th year. And I looked up and I was just like, this is not fun. Like,
Yeah.
this is not connective.
It's
I could
drudgery.
hop on him and I
Mhm.
knew how to force an orgasm out. Like, I
Yeah.
knew how to rub my clit, I knew how to make an orgasm happen. And
Mhm.
so, like, I don't know if you've explored erotic blueprints, but I'm a super high
Yeah.
sexual. I would assume you are too.
Mhm.
And so I
I'm actually a
felt
shapeshifter. I do
I'm a
everything.
shapeshifter too, but my highest is sexual. Like, I really
Mhm.
feel love and connection through sex.
Mhm.
And so it was like putting a Band-Aid or like dripping water, like every time I would hop on him and force out an orgasm. Cause I was like, okay, I kind of feel love now. Okay, I kind of feel connection now. Okay, this is enough. And one
Mhm.
day at 38, like the veil just dropped. You know
Yeah.
that those moments in life where you're like,
Yeah.
what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, like, "Oh, fuck no, not again." Yeah.
And I kept telling people, I have such a great marriage. We have such
Mhm.
a hot sex life because we have sex every other day. Well, that's because
Yeah.
I was basically like, look, if you want to be married to me, you have to have sex every other day with me. Because the
Yeah.
dribbles of connection and feeling love was what I needed to survive,
Yep.
in this marriage. And so through opening up our relationship, I mean, I'm just fast forwarding quickly. There was a whole like polyamorous therapist in there and all of that. I
Good.
realized once I was on the other side of
Mhm.
tasting what was available, like you tasted at the beginning and I kind of like tasted after I'd been married to two husbands. But I was like, oh my God, I've been having sex like a 18, 19-year-old for
Yeah.
20 years.
Like a
Like
man, you've been
that
having sex like a man.
like a man, like the
Yeah.
right boob and you put it in. It was
Right.
literally that for 8
Yep.
years. And I was
Mhm.
like, what is this 3-hour sex? What
Mhm.
is foreplay? What are these cervical orgasms?
Mhm.
What the fuck is happening to me? This is amazing. And
Yeah,
it brought
good,
me into my third life partner, Scott, where I'm getting to
good.
explore this stuff. And I'm so grateful for people like you that are like
Mhm.
out there and you're like, here's the information, just drink it,
Yes.
change your
Yes.
life. So you mentioned sexual biohacking and
Yeah.
that basically through sex, and I'm just imagining it's because like that's the art of creation, that's the juiciness, it's like the spring
Mhm.
inside of us. It's making us live longer, we look younger. Like, can you take a little time and explain that?
Yeah, sure. So biohacking came out of the longevity, innovation arena. And biohacking just really means using available resources to optimize your health so you live a longer life. So it includes anti-aging as well. It's like keeping your youthful vigor longer. And it can be anything from red light therapy and, cryo and cold plunges to, your daily strength training and your stability and your flexibility and your balance and your high intensity interval training and, your nutrition, your leafy greens and your beetroot and your quality proteins and avoiding ultra processed foods to hormone, topping up your own hormones or producing more of your own hormones and then topping them up. It can be doing things like senolytics, which is getting rid of the dead and broken cells in your body so you can regenerate, have cellular biogenesis to regenerate new, fresh cells instead of, because you have kind of a fixed pie of cells. So senescent cells create senolytic supplementation. It can be just making sure your supplements are in order, topping up your nitric oxide because that wanes as you get older. And then it goes into specifically sexual biohacking. Oh, and I didn't even talk about like peptides are really a big part of that as well. Now there's like PRP, exosomes, stem cells, and things like
So
that are
everyone
like
listening
more
right now
regenerative.
that's like, what is all of this? Is that
Right.
part of the 20? If I put a link below, can people like jump? Is that your company that has all of this stuff?
I have a lot of supplements at the 20
Okay.
that are for sexual vitality. Yeah. And so all these different things are different modalities that people use to keep themselves youthful and push off dying and increase your health span.
Okay.
And one of the things that increases your health span, which is that you live a longer, healthier life, not just a longer life, is increasing your sex span, continuing to have good sex. But what happens as we age is that sometimes our genitals atrophy. Like for women, as our estrogen drops, our tissue thins and we begin to get wrinkled. And the vaginal and urethral tissue, the linings of mucosal linings of our genital systems start to thin and get more delicate because the estrogen makes them thin and that reduces the collagen. And then they aren't so thick and they can't hold all the moisture that your blood plasma sends into your vagina, for example, for you to lubricate. So you start to get dry. So that's an example of why you want to use vaginal estrogen. And then the other thing that happens as you atrophy is that the tissue shrinks, your clitoral tissue shrinks, and it has less surface area. And as it shrinks and your blood supply retracts from the skin and from the tissue, then the nerves retract and then it becomes harder and harder and harder to climax. You feel like you can't quite get there. For men, of course, they have also erectile dysfunction, similar to women, where they have the vascular retraction, the nerve retraction. They don't have the blood carrying capacity that their penis is used to. So essentially, when biohackers reverse aging, they talk about using a stack. And a stack is just a series of synergistic things that are used together that create that symphonic, synergistic benefit. So when you're trying to reverse your aging genitals and you want to have really, really good blood flow, sensation, etc., lubrication, ejaculation, etc.,
Mhm.
you do a couple of things. One, eat more leafy greens, stop using antibacterial mouthwash, don't use acid blockers, change your diet, don't cover it up with an acid blocker. You want to do things like take a nitric oxide booster. That's what my top selling product is, a nitric oxide booster made from real fruit and vegetables, not synthetic crap out of a lab. And you want to do nitric oxide production, and then you want to do treatments such as Gainswave. Gainswave is an acoustic wave treatment that stimulates new tissue growth of the penis and the vulva. And what it does is it stimulates new tissue growth so that the capillaries grow back out to the edges, so that the nerves grow back out to the edges, so that the tissue is regenerated. So you have good erectile capacity, because we think about erectile issues as like a male problem, like
Mhm.
he's got ED, but we women have exactly the same amount of erectile tissue in our vulva as our male bodied partners do in their penis. And what you see sticking out of a penis is about half of his penis. It goes in and down, it's double the size, and it's almost all erectile tissue. So if I took that banana's worth of tissue out and put it on your palm, it would cover your hand.
Mm.
And if I took all of the erectile tissue out of your vulva and put it on your in your other hand, it would be the same amount. It would cover your hand. we think about the tip of the clitoris and the vaginal canal, if you will, but actually our penis, if you will, is all like nooks and crannies all around, wrapped around our vagina with just the tip of the clitoris presenting, but almost, 95% of it, even probably 98% is inside and wrapped around. It needs as much blood flow as a male partner does, but it takes us about 20 minutes to achieve full erectile function, where it takes our male bodied partners a minute or two to get that erection. So we get rushed to sex, which is a whole separate topic of why we want to slow down and do all the foreplay and the pleasuring to get the blood flow so that we have our lady boner. And the gains waves kind of reconstitute all that tissue so that it can get to full engorgement, erection. And when it does, you know how they say your brain is your biggest sex organ?
Mhm.
Well, that's because what your brain is actually doing is registering sensation as pain or shame or numbness or pleasure. And so you want to start activating. This is another part of sexual biohacking. It's called orgasmic activation. And it's really about starting to touch all the places with loving touch that are shame or pain or numb, and bringing them online to your brain so that your brain so that you get the blood flow to them, so that your brain then can say, oh, actually, this does feel good to be touched here. Oh, I do like my labia being touched. Oh, I like my vestibule being lovingly stroked. Oh, I like that little fourchette at the bottom of my labia being played with. Wow. You know what? I like the mons, really, when that gets played with, I have ejaculatory orgasms so much better. There's all these different components. And so orgasmic activation is really learning how to light up the brain. So another thing that I love about sexual biohacking, and I'll send you some of this, I work with a company called Foria, and they have 3 products that I've created into something I call the pleasure protocol. Essentially, the first product is something called Melts. And this is like your biohacking 101. It uses CBD, which triggers your endocannabinoid system, your pleasure healing pathway. And essentially what it is a little cocoa butter, little troche, little capsule that has botanicals and CBD in it. And it smells so good. I want to eat it right now. And you put it up inside your vagina and it melts and coats the vaginal lining, and it starts to trigger the endocannabinoid system, and it sends that mind body connection. Those signals start activating. And then you take their Awaken arousal oil, and you just need a couple of pumps of this. This is not a lube. This is an awakening arousal oil. I'm going to send some to you. And what this does is you coat the outer vulva with it.
Mhm.
And then that starts the mind body signals from the vulva. So now you've got the vagina online. You've got the whole vulva going. By the way, this works really nicely on penises and testicles as well. Now you're activating. And then you use their sex oil and you put on as much as you need for as much slide and glide as you want. And you just start to manually pleasure all that tissue, a lingam massage, a yoni massage, giving your body time to get it all plump and fluffed up. Now you've got all this surface area, nice and big and fluffy, sending way more signals to your biggest sex organ, the brain. That pleasure protocol, which is at pleasureprotocol.com, they made a special page with a special bundle, and there's a promo code for, I think it's just Susan, more discount. That is like your first sexual biohacking date where you're like, I'm going to get this tissue so juicy and engorged. I'm going to activate all these neural pathways. That in and of itself is going to enhance your orgasm exponentially, because maybe for the first time in your life, you were really focused on mind-body connection and engorgement. And just like simple stuff makes a huge difference with sexual biohacking. Then I'll close off by saying that vulva and penis pumping are also very, very, very good to do. You can pump your clitoral structure. You can pump your vulval lips by bringing blood flow in that way. And you can pump your male body's penis, your male body partner's penis. And what that does is it reverses the atrophy that's naturally occurring as we age, increasing the blood carrying capacity of the genital system. And the thing with sexual biohacking is that it's a spectrum. There's regenerative. I've got to fix the stuff that happened while I was aging. So I'm going to regenerate tissue using pumping, Gaines wave, the pleasure protocol, some red light therapies, things like that. Then now that I'm like better than I've ever been, like literally for me at this point, Jennifer, I would say I'm more wet and lubricated than I was even in my 20s. And I'm having way more intense orgasms, longer orgasms, better orgasms, and different kinds of orgasms than I had even in my 20s. So now I'm at the biohacking, which is the taking it, it's like enhancement. You've repaired and remediated, and now you're beyond where you should be or ever have been, and you're moving into enhancement. And that's where a lot of people are working on enlargement of their genitals, like penile enlargement, like I'm 5 inches, I'd like to be 6, or I'm 6 and I'd like to be 7. Women are like, I'd like a meatier clitoral structure. I'm going to put some vaginal estrogen in. I'm going to put some testosterone cream on my clitoris. I'm going to use my clit pump. I'm going to get my Gaines waves. And they're getting like PRP, platelet rich plasma injections, and just really like taking care of their genitals as they hit midlife so that they can sail into their 80s and 90s having super hot sex. I got an email from an 86-year-old fan yesterday who picked his penis pump back up. He's like, I used to pump when I was younger, and then I heard you talking about it, and I'm pumping now. And my wife is 76, and has never been happier. We're having the best sex of our lives. He's 86, she's 76.
Wow. I don't even know where to start with all of this. I think too, because you give the information so fast that it's like,
Yeah.
okay. So I guess the first thing I want to say is my grandmother told my whole family, including my children, like a year ago when we were in Savannah with her, she said, I've had 2 husbands and several lovers, and I didn't even stop having sex till I was 90. She turns 99 in like 3 weeks.
Super.
She's amazing. And I
It's
want
natural.
to be her. Yes.
Me too.
I agree.
I want to die having an orgasm at like 100 and something.
Me too. That would be amazing. These are our goals. Okay. So I love that you're giving us some really easy tools that we can do to get our mind and our genitals online now. So you don't have to spend 2 years doing all the first part of the biohacking. That's great. We need to do this too, but you can also use what you just showed us. You stick the thing up and you do the spray and you do the lube, and then you're putting
the
things
pleasure
on.
Protocol. Yeah.
Yes, the pleasure protocol. We're doing this now. I can't tell you how many women lately, especially that I've been coaching, that are saying, I can't feel my genitals. It's like a giant hole, a black hole. There's nothing there. I can't feel anything. And the only way that I can feel sort of like, okay, maybe I've experienced that. One time we did mushrooms and my partner had sex with me on mushrooms and I was totally fine. I was excited about it, but I literally couldn't feel anything. Because sometimes, when you're on mushrooms, it's all up here and your whole body is like, doesn't work anymore. It's not there.
Yeah.
You're in the spirit world.
You're not on this plane.
I was not on this plane and I couldn't feel it. And I was like, this must be what it feels like to say, I can't feel my genitals at all. So I love that we have the pleasure protocols so people can immediately start to get this connection online and then start working on the rest of their biohacking. I am curious because you've mentioned your husband a few times. Has he followed? I'm assuming he's followed this with you.
Oh God, yeah.
Your big awakening.
He's up for anything. I'm constantly thinking up crazy shit. Oh, baby, now I got to try this vibrator. Now I got to do this thing. I want you to stick this up your butt. Blah, 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 blah. He's like, he's a yes to everything. There's nothing that man would not do or try with me. So yeah. lucky.
Do you think that this is why you've lasted 30 plus years together?
I
Because
think
you're
it's
both so willing to like row in the same direction?
I think it's the radical honesty.
Uh-huh.
It's the expanded orgasm dates, the yoni massages that he gives me, the clitoral strokes that he gives me.
Oh.
And it's the growth mindset. He has a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So we like to grow. And I think it's those things. Another thing I wanted to tell you too is
Mm-hmm.
that we probably don't have time to go into it today, but I like to, I have this construct I call orgasmic cross training.
Ooh.
I originally got the idea from one of my mentors. I've been very lucky to have some incredible mentors, and Sherry Winston has been one of my mentors. And she taught me this notion of, okay, when you're trying to, try a new orgasm skill, like if you're trying to go from maybe learning how to orgasm from intercourse, you work with the clitoral structure, you work with the G spot, and then you work with the penetration, and you take the pleasure you're getting from one kind of orgasm and you kind of bring it over to the other kind of orgasm. And then when I was working with Dr. Nan Wise, she's the scientific neurologist, the sexologist neuroscientist
Okay.
who put women in fMRI machines and had their partners touch them all over their genitals to see what parts of the brain lit up, and realizing that all of your genital system can be activated to be orgasmic. It's not the tip of your clit or your vaginal, cave.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole thing. Plus your breasts and your nipples and your lips, your mouth, your tongue, your throat, your neck. It's all orgasmic. You can have belly gasms, core gasms, foot gasms. There's so many kinds of orgasms you can have. And what Nan added to that was activating all these different areas. And then Kristen Tribby, who is at Fun Factory, which is a German brand of sex toys that is something that I love. They have a breadth of product and a quality of product that I think is unmatched in the industry. They are the titan of the top of the line toys. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of companies that their stuff looks good, but it's shitty motors. There's
Mm-hmm.
lots of companies that have, horrible plasticizers and all kinds of crap. Fun Factory's coming in. Kristen said to me one time, she said, well, there's basically like only a few types of toys, and they're just variations on the theme. And that's very similar to sex positions. It's only 6 sex positions. Everything's a variation on the theme. And when I thought about all of that, I was like, okay, so orgasmic cross training, activating all of the different areas using the 8 kinds of toys that activate the vulva and the 4 kinds of toys that activate the penile, testicle, prostate, matrix. That's all there are. And so if you want to start orgasmically activating yourself, slowly add these 8 different things and these 4 different things to your pleasure chest and begin incorporating them into your lovemaking as well as your solo pleasuring, so that you're just bringing all that tissue online, so that you start to have all these kinds of orgasmic experiences. And that's at orgasmiccrosstraining.com. The 8 kinds for the female body, the 4 kinds for the male body, and just start bringing them in one by one, having your erotic play dates rather than scheduling sex. Have erotic play dates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on Tuesday, like my husband's coming back up from our beach house right now, and he's bringing me the Mystery Vibe Legato, and he's bringing the Tenuto Mini. One is a vibrating cock ring, and the other one is a labial stimulator. And they both run on Bluetooth apps that have these varieties of patterns. And this is what we're doing this week, is we're going to play with both of those brand new toys, because I've never tried something that is a labial vibrator before. And my labia are highly sensitive and orgasmic now that I've brought them online. And so we're always trying new things, and sex is always there's always more expansion. So you guys have to start going, and you got to catch up because shit keeps happening and we don't want to leave you behind. So you got to get those things and get started because there's always something more. And that's what's great about your sex life is it is the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Okay, I have two questions.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can remember both of them by the time I'm done. The first
Okay.
one is about sexual biohacking. At
Yes.
what age do people start doing the biohacking because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm aging?
A lot of women start when they're in their 30s with the vagina device that has red light,
Mhm.
because postpartum, especially with a vaginal delivery, they're wanting to kind of heal that tissue and, reconstitute their vaginal microbiome and get the engorgement flowing again, for intercourse with their partner and things like that. And for men, they're generally starting to use, if they're not already pumping just strictly for enlargement, they're starting to reverse their atrophy in their 40s. Most people start doing nitric oxide supplementation in their 40s, like 2 capsules at night before you go to bed, 2 before lovemaking, so that you're increasing your blood flow capacities to your genitals so that they don't atrophy. You're actually using the nitric oxide supplementation to prevent some of the atrophy that happens as your blood flow, as your vascular tone diminishes as you age. They're getting ahead of the game. That's where people mostly start. Some people do penis enlargement. Some guys do penis enlargement starting in their 20s. If they want a bigger penis, they just start when they're younger.
Huh. I feel like most of my listeners, and I'm in Arkansas, so I would
Yeah.
assume we are probably way behind the times. I've not heard of most of this before, ever.
Oh, great.
And I'm going to assume that most doctors are not prescribing this. Like
Oh, they're not taught it.
how do you get into this whole world to learn all these things so that we don't end up at 80 or even 60 and things don't work anymore?
Yeah. Well, I'm in a kind of a mastermind group with a lot of health practitioners, a lot of functional doctors, a lot of naturopathic doctors, as well as traditional allopathic MDs of all kinds, as well as, life coaches and health coaches and people like that. And one of my friends is Dave Asprey. He's kind of the original, father of
Biohacker guy.
biohacking, and I've
Mhm.
known him for over a decade. He's a very dear friend of mine. And so I've just known about biohacking. And because I was already doing the sex techniques and the bedroom communication skills, I found out about Gainswave and penis pumping through one of my best friends, Dr. Robin Benson. And she told me about these procedures, and I started learning about them. I went to the companies and I was like, I want to be part of what you're doing. Everybody needs to know about this. You need to have sex educators like me
Mhm.
letting people know about this stuff. And so I've been working with these companies now for, many, many years. And I just keep up with it all now because people want to be able to take their health into their own hands. Like
Mhm.
you can go to your doctor and get your hormones replaced, which is great. You definitely want to get on vaginal estrogen starting in your 40s. And you can also have just full body estrogen as well. And then for men, you want to be checking their testosterone levels and doing, a lot of strength training really helps with testosterone.
Mm.
Strength training is very exertion creates testosterone. And so that's one of the things. I'm actually one of the reasons I have to, keep our time tight today is that I work out every single day. So I'm
Mhm.
on my way to my workout. Yesterday, my workout included pushing like 100-pound sled up and down the workout gym, like I push it, I pull it, I yank it, I do all kinds of things. Not yank, but
Yeah.
so like that's really important is to keep strength building as well. That's like a part of sexual biohacking and biohacking in general, taking your omega fatty acids and things like that. You got to start doing that stuff.
Why do you think that it decreases our lifespan by not having sex?
Well, if you look at two studies, one of the studies is the two longest longevity studies in the world happen to be one out of New Zealand called the Dunedin Pace study, and one out of Boston, out of Cambridge, called the Harvard Men's Study. And the Harvard Men's Study basically said it's over 80 years they've been tracking longevity of men, and the one kind of thing that men have done that has kept them the youngest and given them the longest life has been being in relationship. And then in the Dunedin Pace study, they look at these four quadrants that indicate longevity. One is grip strength, which is just a showcase of overall strength. Your grip strength is an expression of your overall strength. So strength. Cognitive function. Can you remember things? Are you sharp? And then the next one is balance. How good are you at standing on one leg for how long? And how old do you look compared to your peers? And when you look younger than your cohort from the outside, you tend to be younger on the inside. It's the external expression of your internal health. And what's interesting is that there was a study done in Europe that they call the super young. And people were shown 2,500 pictures. It was 1,800. 1,800 people were shown pictures of a bunch of different people, and they asked to guess their ages. And there was this group of people that everyone guessed to look 10 years younger than their actual age. And for the longest time, they couldn't figure out what it was. And then they isolated it to be that these were the people who were having intimate connection 3 times a week or more. So when you have intimate connection, and I didn't say sex because when I say sex, people think intercourse because they're so under the, patriarchal religious paradigm that the only thing that sex is for procreation only. So only intercourse counts. That's bullshit. It's not. All sex is good. Foreplay is not opposite of sex. Foreplay is sex. It's all lovemaking. Use that word. When you are having intimate relations, you are rebooting your nervous systems. You're calming and co-regulating. You're releasing oxytocin and other hormones, dopamine, serotonin. You're getting testosterone from your male-bodied partner. You're getting all kinds of spermidine, spermine, and putrescine from their semen, which is actually something that helps with the 9 of the 12 hallmarks of aging, including telomere length and autophagy and all the stuff that we've been talking about with anti-aging. So sex is good for you. It sends all that blood to your brain that oxygenates your brain for cognitive function when you have all these orgasms and get all these touches. So it's just makes you live a longer, happier life.
Oh, that was perfect. And what a perfect way to end.
Yay!
Susan, I want more of you. Like
I'd be happy
I
to
need
come
this
back.
all the time. Okay.
Yes.
And everybody listening is going to want more of you. What is the best way for us to get more of this?
Yeah, sure. Probably the place to start is betterlover.com. That's where I have more videos than is on YouTube, because YouTube's always threatening to shut me down. So I just moved over to betterlover.com and host them myself. There's all the sexual biohacking, all the penis enlargement, all the vagina device stuff. Everything is on there. And you can follow me on Instagram at Susan Bratton, SUSAN BRATTON. Those are 2 places. And if you get on my newsletter at betterlover.com, that's a sex tips newsletter where I talk about all this kind of stuff all the time. Then if you reply to any email that I send you with any kind of personal question, I'm happy to answer it. They go to my inbox, not to my teams. I've got 17 people in my company, but I get the email replies because people want to ask me very personal questions. And a lot of times, in all honesty, at this point of doing this for decades and creating so much content and articles, I'm mostly like, here's the 3 links, read this, watch this video, download this free ebook. This will get you started. Try these things and let me know how you do. Report back, because report back is kind of my thing, where it's helped me get even better at understanding what people need when they're like, well, I tried this and I did, and this is where I stumbled. I'm like, oh, okay, I forgot to tell you this thing, so it really helps me. So that's betterlover.com, Susan Bratton. Those are the places to find me. Thank you for having me. And
thank you for being on.
You're a doll.
Absolutely. I'll put all the links in the notes below. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Open Bedroom Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and give us a like and click subscribe below and stay up to date on all the new episodes that we release. If you have a topic that you'd really like more information on, leave us a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Feel free to share this podcast with all of your friends and especially your partners. This is a great way to open up some amazing conversations. We'll see you next week.